Hey everyone, hope you all are doing great. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all who all are joining us globally. I am Parth Varu, Events and Program Manager for Microsoft Reactor India, and yes, I welcome you all to our at another episode of hands-on with invoice capture on Microsoft 365. But before we start our today's event, let's go through our code of conduct. We all are here to learn together, participate together. So please be respectful of other people's views, understanding their differences, be kind and considerate in a way we all engage. Yes, we do encourage you all to participate. Please drop all your questions in the comment section and we'll pick it up from there. Now, I would like to welcome Rakesh and Hamza for our today's event. Hi Rakesh. Hi Hamza.
Hello,
How are you?
hello, Parth. How are you, Parth?
I am great. I think Hamza, you're
Hi.
on mute.
Hi Parth. Hello Rakesh.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Rakesh, can we have short recap of our episode one, and then we can go ahead. I can share the link of our episode one too for the folks who all have missed it.
Okay, sure. So this is our episode two. In our previous episode, we tried to learn the couple of aspects of the invoice capture. So we started with the understanding of the vendor automation journey, why the automation journey is important in the case of vendor invoices. We also try to learn what does invoice capture do. We also explain and understand the how do you implement the invoice capture and also the competitive landscape from ISB perspective. And towards the end, we learn the demos. So that was a quick recap. Let me just quickly share my screen.
Sure.
I hope my screen is visible and audible to everyone.
Yes, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Par. So, first of all, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, depending on your location. So, today is our episode two, where we are going to more focus on hands on experience with invoice capture. As I mentioned previously, where we learn a lot from the previous first episode, where we deep dive more into the understanding of the vendor invoice automation. We looked at the one of the common scenario, if at all, if organizations don't have any kind of automations to perform their vendor invoices, then what kind of a challenges that they face, and if at all if they have the automation, how they can improvise the end-to-end journey of day-to-day activity of accounts payable personas. We also try to learn how do you implement the invoice capture in terms of the understanding of invoice capture, the implementation approach and everything. And we also saw the ISVs as a competitive landscape in comparison with the invoice capture. Towards the end, we also learned the demo in terms of the high level understanding of the invoice capture. Where do you see the configuration, where do you see all the settings, and how do you ensure upload the documents, how the document gets scanned automatically through the OCR and everything. In today's session, where we are going to focus more on the hands-on experience, where next 50 or 50 minutes or so, where we will deep dive more into the aspect of the configuration. What are the core configurations that you need should understand and to be enabled before we deep dive into the configuration part from your customer journey perspective. Then we will also understand the strategy to choose between the standard AI model and the custom AI model, right? In which scenario you should go for a standard AI model and which scenario you should not. Then we'll also talk about the extensions versus the customization. What are the product capabilities that exist where you can add the additional, fields on top of the existing model, and if you at all, if you want to perform any kind of a customization that we will see. Towards the end, we have reserved 5 or 10 minutes or so where we will have Q&A. In terms of speaker today, my name is Rakesh Jarge. I'm Microsoft MVP in Business Application and Fasttrack recognized Solution Architect in Dynamics 365 AI ERP. Today, I'm here with my colleague and friend Muhammad Hamza. Hamza, would you like to introduce yourself? Hamza, if you are talking, I think you are on mute.
Hello all, I am Mohammed Khan. Sorry for the mic troubles. I am a Dynamics 365 technical consultant and I am a generative AI enthusiast. Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Hamza. So without much further delay, let's focus on the live demo. What I'll do, I'll stop sharing my screen and I would request Hamza to share his screen where he will help us to understand and navigate to the core aspect. That is what today's topic is all about. Yeah, Hamza.
Is my screen visible, everyone?
Yeah, it is busy. Yeah.
So let's start with invoice capture, as Rakesh has already, told and explained in his previous sessions what invoice capture is and everything, and he has also done the recap. So we'll start to the link here. The moment you'll go into App Store, you'll say this, type invoice capture. You'll click on invoice
Hamza,
capture
sorry to
and
stop
then you'll
you.
click on the free trial.
Sorry to stop you in between, Hamza, but
This
your
will
screen
take you
is
to
stuck.
Dynamics 365 to complete the process. But since I have already installed it, it will show you what are the environments you need to install. For me, it's done, so I'll click on cancel. I won't, redo it.
Hamza, sorry to stop you in between, but your screen is not visible. You can turn off your camera, Hamza.
Hello.
Yeah, Hamza, you're audible. You can turn off your camera. Your screen is not visible. You can reshare your screen again.
Rakesh, is my screen visible?
No, now it's loading. You can turn off your
Okay.
camera.
So you'll go into the project operations and you will try to install everything. Okay, this is done. And as soon as this is done within the admin center, wait for some times, let the invoice capture install into the system, and since if you have a tier 2 machine, you will see it on your home screen within invoice capture. Okay, you will see it over here as it within applications. But say for example, if you have a tier 1 machine, you won't be able to see it. You give me a second. Yep. Okay.
Yes. Uh, can you turn off your camera because there is a lag and there is more bandwidth taken off? Can you
Power
also?
apps. So you need to go into Power Apps. You need to go into environments, and within environments you'll see it. So you'll go into the link and you'll be able to see it. Say for example, let me go into the admin center. Yep. You will go into the Power Platform admin center. You will go into environments. I believe there's some trouble with the screen. I'm trying to resolve it, but we'll see. And from here you'll go into your into the project operations, and you'll go and see what's happening. Okay. Apps and From apps, you'll be able to see. But this is for the tier 1 machine. For the tier 2 machine, you'll be able to directly see it from the invoice capture home screen. Okay. After invoice capture is installed, our first step is to see which legal entities which we need for invoice capture. Okay. So say for example, if for a particular tenant, you have multiple legal entities, right? So for the demonstration purposes, I have only selected one legal entity, but usually it's if you have more than one legal entity, it is going to be more than one legal entity. Okay, you will go into accounts payable module and it's search for invoices. Okay, so you will find it within setups, and within setups you will be able to find it within invoice capture. Okay, wait for some times. It's processing. Yeah, it's done. So as we can see, what I have done is I have synced my legal entities with my invoice capture. When you are running your actual machines, but usually when you are running your actual machine, um, you won't be able, it is not going to be this slow. It's a much faster and a much smoother experience than this one. Over here, you are going to select your legal entities, and as soon as you have selected your legal entities and everything, you have an option to select the attached document and the journal name. Okay, and you also have an option, it's on by default to sync all the vendors within that legal entity. Say for example, within a particular legal entity, you only need to sync some particular vendor, you are going to disable this option. So within the attached document type, you will have three, like by default within Dynamics, you will have three attached document type. What I'll do is I am directly going it through search because it's much faster and much easier. So, so let's go over there.
Hamza, I think your screen is freezed again.
Yep, it's now working. So as you can see within the document type, what you will have are your four document types which are by default, that is file, images, notes, and URL. But what I'll suggest is for invoice capture, create a new document type and let everything load. Okay. Yeah. So as you can see, for this invoice capture document type, the group is file and the location is Azure storage. Keep it like this because say for example, if for some other purposes you need to create a new document type for your invoice capture,
So sorry for the inconvenience. We have some technical glitches. A speaker is trying to join back. By the time, if you all have any questions, you can reach out to Rakesh too. We have Rakesh here also. You can drop all your questions in the comment section. And also, please do join our Microsoft Reactor LinkedIn group where we are actively posting all our events which are happening in India, which are accessible globally online. Today's learning, here is the link for today's learning. You all can take this link ahead and which will help you to take all your learning further. Yes, I think we have Hamza back. Yes,
Hello.
yes.
Sorry, I believe my screen got stuck.
Yes,
Usually for
yes.
trial environment, it does happen sometimes, but this is not the way it happens. Okay. Um,
Can you
let's
share
see.
your screen?
Yes, I am. Is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible. Can you turn off your camera?
Sure, I'll
Yes.
do it. Okay. So, from where should I start again? Because I don't know from where the internet issue started happening. Rakesh?
You can start with the document type again, the
Okay.
configuration.
So, what has happened was there was some connectivity issues. So, I'll start again with the document type. So, within document type, right, there are 4 document types: file, images, notes, and URL, which are done by default. Like, you don't need to make any changes for it. Everything is working in fine. Like, these are given by Dynamics. But say, for example, if someone has made any changes to the file document type, say, for example, they have changed the location from Azure storage to a SharePoint, and that SharePoint is only accessible to a few users or a few particular members. What is going to happen is only those few members, the invoice capture solution is going to work. So it's much better and it's much safer to create a new document type called invoice capture, and to only use that document type of invoice capture for the invoice capture purposes. Like, you'll go back over here. I'll go into the recents and you'll see it. So only use invoice capture type. Everything is going to then work fine. Okay. So this is what is you need to do to set up invoice capture. Also, say for example, you only need to take the PO headers, and you don't need to take the purchase order lines. Okay, for that, what you can do is you can go into account payable, and within account payable, you'll go into account payable parameters, and within account payable parameters, go into vendor invoice automation. Within vendor invoice automation, turn this option on to automatically create invoice lines. Okay, and for the default, took the product receipt instead of the order quantity. You can also choose the order quantity, but it's much better to use the product receipt quantity. Okay. So after this, we'll start with our actual application of invoice capture. Okay. Give it a second. Yep. So this is the receiving files from where you are going to see everything. Over here, you are going to upload your invoices. Let me upload a few of the invoices. Okay. Let me upload this. Okay. So within invoice capture is going to be managed by 2 people. One of them is going to be account payable manager, and one of them is going to be account payable clerk. This screen, the one which is visible to all of you, is going to be only visible to the account payable clerk and manager both. And this one is only the system setup part that can only be accessed by the account payable manager. The clerk cannot view the system setup system. Okay, and this screen can be viewed by both. So after you have uploaded the file, you can directly upload the file from here, or you can, but this is not how actually it's going to flow. I'll explain a bit about that later. Okay. So from here, you will receive the files. The file is then going to get processed, and it will get captured if it has some issues. If it does not have any issues, it will, like, if everything is working completely fine, it will go into an awaiting stage. And after awaiting stage, the system will capture it, and a batch job is going to run called transfer invoice capture, and then it is going to go into the pending vendor invoices. Okay, and this is our dashboard. Okay, so for this invoice, it's in the capture status. The reason it is in the capture status is this purchase order does not exist within Dynamics. So what I need to do is I need to start the review, and I'll do it. So we'll come to this later. First, I'll explain the setup system part. Okay. So within setup system, you'll see the system preferences. The system preferences is basically where everything is actually going to work. So you'll have an AI builder model. So what Microsoft does is Microsoft gives you the ability to have two invoice capture models. One of them is going to be your standard one, and the another model is going to be a custom one. You can have multiple custom models, but basically these are two parts: the standard one and the custom one. What happens with the custom one is you build the custom one on the top of the standard one. So Microsoft have taken multiple invoices and they have given us a model. Okay, what we do is we try to skew the custom model. We try to skew the primary model based on the custom model. Okay, I'll explain that later also. And after that, you'll have channels for file upload, file filter, configuration group. So whichever you want, you'll do it over here. And this is the one which is it's going to pick it up. So you have manage processing channel. So within manage processing channels, you will set up everything. So if, say for example, your purchase orders. So what happens sometimes is within Dynamics, if you have your number sequence as automatic, and Dynamics is generating a number sequence. Say for example, Dynamics generated a number sequence of 0055 for your purchase order. But what your vendor does is your vendor sends you a purchase order which says RT/0055. So our invoice capture has the capability to understand that no, this is not going to be an RT005, it is 005 purchase order, because that RT might be a truck number, or say for example cargo number via. And then you also have derived the currency code for cost invoices, which I have clicked as no. I'll explain that later why it's no. And then you can also use the confidence score. For demonstration purposes, I have turned this off. But while we are actually doing it right, we should turn this on. Okay. So then you'll have manage channels. So within channels, you'll have the default channel. And after that, you can also create your own channel. I have done that. I have created my own channel. I have assigned whatever comes through this channel is directly going to this legal entity. Before version, I believe 1.6, now invoice capture is version 1.8.x. So before version 1.6, what you can do is you can only assign it to a single legal entity. But now Microsoft has also introduced the concept of assigning it to not just all the legal entities or a single legal entities. You can create a business unit within Power Apps, and then you can assign multiple business units to a single group. So what you can do is, say for example, you have 5 legal entities, and you know for this particular, if it's coming through this email box, or if it's coming through this channel, then what I can do is I can assign it to this. It's going to be either legal entity 1 or it's going to be either legal entity 2. So you can also do that. And then you can also assign the file filters. So we'll assign the file filter of invoice capture. Okay. And within this, you can see you can manage flow. because it's a trial environment and I don't have an Outlook access, I won't be able to show this to you. But what actually happens is the invoices, you won't be uploading it manually from here, right? No one is going to be uploading invoices manually from here, and no one is actually going to use this. Like sometimes people will, but for for the majority of the invoices which are going to come into your system, people are they are going to come through your mailbox. So what you can do is you can create a shared mailbox, and someone can send an invoice to that mailbox. The movement an invoice comes within that mailbox, you'll have a Power Automate flow, and from that Power Automate flow, the invoice are directly going to enter through your channel into the receiving files. So for this particular channel, any legal entity or any of the invoices which enters over here, they're directly going to be assigned using to USMF. Say for example, if an invoice comes to my email box, Muhammad Hamza Khan, that invoice, when it goes from that mailbox, it has entered that mailbox, a Power Automate flow is going to run. It will come to invoice capture and it is directly going to be assigned to USMF. It is not going to look for any other legal entity. Okay. Then you have an option to manage the file filters. Even for the file filters, I have created two options. One is invoice default and another one is invoice capture. So invoice capture accepts multiple file types. You can accept files from up to 20 MBs. Okay. If a file is more than 20 MBs, invoice capture is not going to be able to read those files. Okay. So if you see over here, you will have multiple formats. So what I'll suggest is I'll suggest an option of PDF and PNG. Don't use JPG and JPEG, since using either of them, they both are scalar images, right? So what happens is sometimes while transferring through an email or through any other channel, the image will get compressed, and the movement the images get compressed, right? What is going to happen is each of the words which are there within those invoices, each letter might get distorted. So say for example, 6 might look like it's 0 because it's missing something. 2 might look like 1 because the image has been distorted. Even you won't be able to read it, let alone invoice capture. So the movement those happens, right? What happens is you need to correct all those invoices manually, and it's a tedious process. It defeats the purpose of having an invoice capture automation. So either go for PDF or PNG. For this, I have used only PDF files, so I am restricting the files to the PDF only. Then you'll have manage the configuration group. In configuration groups, I have created another configuration group, the same name, invoice capture. You can choose what types of file you want to accept. And I believe this is the most important screen on setup system, because you have 3 types, right? You have purchase invoice, where you read the headers and you also read the lines. You have cost invoices, where there was no PO before, and you have to define it directly, you have to go. And then you have headers only. Within headers only, you only read the headers, nothing else. So for this, I have accepted only headers only, and I have not accepted the PO or the PO lines, because when you try to read the lines should match. And while matching the lines, what happens is sometimes it's not in the sync. So say for example, if there is something missing within the line, someone has to go and they have to correct it manually. So again, that manual process is what we are trying to remove it. So for that purpose, I have taken the header only. You can say, for example, you need to have multiple verifications. You can go for the PO lines, PO invoices. It works completely fine. But for this, we'll go with headers only, and you can also manage this. And say, for example, you need to, even reduce this. You can only manage the visible field. These are the multiple fields, and out of which only these are visible on that screen, right? These are the all the different fields which you can add over here. And invoice captures only support this field. Say, for example, if you have any other fields, what is going to happen? We need to extend the invoice capture module, which I'll explain it to that later. Okay. And then you'll have the manage legal entity, where you'll choose which legal entity you have. So over there, I have already used Costco within invoice capture, and then there is Costco Italy. You'll have all the vendors. Say if you have not synced all the vendors, then this is something which you're going to use. Then this is the manage mapping rule. Okay. So this is very important when you work with the vendor account. Say, for example, my vendor X is and within, say legal entity 1 and legal entity 2. So what I'll do then is, when the vendors legal entity, I'll define the legal entity. So when, say for example, within the legal entity 1, the account number is going to be 005 and legal entity 2 is going to be 005, and the vendor name is same. So for, say for example, for USMF, I'll say when the vendor's name contains Samsung, the vendor account is going to be Samsung 001, and for the legal entity Costco Italy, the vendor account is going to be 002. And these are for the items, like if you have items and expense, but the concept remains the same. Okay. So now we'll go back to manage invoices, and within manage invoices, right, you will see the captured invoice. Okay. This invoice has failed because this purchase order does not exist. So what I'll do is, I'll wait. I'll first classify the invoices, because I only read, I have created the rule to only read the header. So I'll go and I'll change it to header only. I'll say the vendor name is Khan Enterprise, and I'll save this. Okay. I'll click on OK. Give it some time. The container does not exist. Okay. What I'll do is, I'll add a purchase order. Okay. I'll manually add a purchase order. To manually change any fields, right, what you need to do is, you need to start the review. I'll start the review. So it's able to see that it's picking the purchase order from here. It's picking the total amount from here. So what I'll do is, I'll change this. And I'll go to 125. Okay. I'll go 150. Wait. So if, say, this currency code for invoice capture, it doesn't read the currency from the invoices. It reads currency from the Microsoft Dynamics. So say if you have a purchase, if the purchase order would have been automatically picked it up, right? So then you won't need to, add this currency code. But since the purchase order has not been picked up and I have manually added it, I need to add the currency code. So I'll add it as dollar. And it's going to be USD. Yes. So I need to enter this manually. After this, I'll see everything is completely fine, looks fine. But say, for example, your invoice it was unable to pick the invoice number. Okay. So what you'll need to do is, you'll need to click on here. Okay. And then you'll need to define, like you can see, you can change this. What is this field? What is this field? Is this PO numbers or not? So it's linked to the field. And you can change it over here. But say, for example, you are going for custom invoices, you won't be able to see this option, which I believe is the biggest disadvantage of going for a custom model, because you lose the ability to map the key value pair. Now it might not seem much, but when you're actually working, right, say you have multiple invoices, and invoice capture has an option of continuous learning. So I'll take again the example of Khan Enterprise, within Khan Enterprise, it was unable to pick the purchase order number the first time. So I'll go hover over here. I'll select this, that this is the purchase order number which it has to pick it up, and then I'll mark it, and then I'll save and close, and then I'll complete the review, and then I'll transfer the invoice. Okay, I'll click on transfer, the invoice will get transferred and everything. But if I had gone for a custom model, what would have happened is I would need to go and train the model completely from scratch such that it was able to pick it up. So if you go over, the invoice has been successfully transferred. So if you go into account payable parameter, and then you'll go not into account payable parameter, you need to go into pending vendor invoices. So the moment you go into pending vendor invoices, you should be able to see your invoice over here. You see, this is the invoice. And from here, the dynamics process is going to start. You also have an option to see the side-by-side view. So you can see the invoice, and you should be also able to see the total. See? So within my product receipt, what I had done was, within the product received, the invoice total for this order was something else, because I have taken it from some else order, right? Different order, purchase order number. So the invoice total over there was 6,000, and the imported invoice amount from invoice capture, it was 8,000. So it is giving me the status that this is not matched. So I can go and change everything, and I can make sure it's matched, or say for example, if something else, I should be able to do it over here itself. Within invoice capture, you have this option to match, but not a product received or the invoice capture total. What it is going to match, it is going to match is, say for example, if all the lines are proper or not, if all the totals, subtotal, sales tax is matching to total or not. After that, the matching part of the product received and everything, that is going to work within Dynamics. Okay, so this was all about a standard model. Now, say for example, you need to extend. For example, this is a car. I have a car company, and for this vendor, he has repaired my car. What I request him is, you need to make sure that all the chassis numbers are visible on my car. So what you can do is, you can either create a whole custom model, or you can extend your standard model. Okay, so how you are going to do that? You need to go into Power Automate. You'll go into solutions, create a new solution, and after you have created a new solution, you'll have 3 tables. Okay, import all these 3 tables. Okay, import these 3 tables, and say for example, you need to make some changes to the staging in headers or the lines. So you can make changes to the headers or lines. What I have done is, I have made changes to the headers. Yes, you can see this chassis and description I have added, and then you can add this to user defined fields. You can go into new column, edit, give it some time. Yes, edit, go into new row using forms, and from here you can create those custom fields. But what is going to happen is, the custom fields are not actually, you need to manually fill, the AP clerk has to manually fill those custom fields. Invoice capture may or may not pick up the custom fields. You have to manually fill it up. So you should remember, for invoice capture to pick up any custom fields, it needs to be within, what you can say, someone has to manually do it. Okay, and even after you have picked up your custom fields, what you also need to do is, you also need to go into Dynamics. You need to go into the invoice capture class, and then you need to extend those class, and you need to do it. You will find all this within the implementation guide. Since this is a trial environment, I won't be able to show you the Visual Studio part. Okay, and this is how you will extend it. Usually you don't, because all the standard fields which someone would require from invoice capture, Microsoft has already provided. So you won't need to extend it. And but even say for example, what has happened is the standard model is unable to pick your invoice. It is unable to read your invoice. Your invoice, your invoices comes in such a format that, let alone the invoice model, if even if you don't know, no one else is going to read it, would be able to read it. In such cases, only in such cases, go for a custom model where you need, where the invoice capture needs to work. Like the standard model is not working. Only in such cases, go for a custom model. Else I prefer not to go for a custom model, because, as I said, you will be losing the capability to map the key value pairs, which is very important when you actually start implementing this for clients or something, because no one is going to go after you have done everything. No one is going to go back, and no one is actually changing this again. But still, I'll explain this. um go to power apps, go to AI hub, and within AI hub, what you can do is go to the different AI models, and this is a trial environment. Okay, I see. And go to invoice processing, create a custom model. Okay, after you have created a custom model, let let me do it from here itself. Okay, okay, yes. So if you have custom fields, add them. If you don't have any custom fields but you have a custom format, leave it. Go next, create a new collection, add multiple documents. I have already done this, but I'll do it again. So I'll add all of them. Okay. Done. I'll click on next. Over here, as you can see, I can see all the fields, right? I'll say this is done. This is also done, because I am not changing anything. If I need to change something, what I'll do is I'll say this is not an invoice number, this is some else number. This is customer ID. Okay, this is customer ID. I'll wait. Continue tagging. This is available within the document. Where is my customer ID? Yes, this is available in the document. And this is, let me tag it to invoice ID, and I'll tag this to customer ID. Okay, and I have done it only for one of the document, not all the documents. Okay, and then I'll say everything is fine for this, everything is also fine for this, and everything is also fine for this. And then I'll click next, and I'll click on train. Okay, I can close this window. What I'll show is, I'll show you the model which I have already trained. Give it some times. It's a trial environment. It is going to be slow. I'll go to Power Apps. Close this. Going to move. Going to AI. And use this whole document processing model, which I also something which is not related to dynamics, but which is related to invoice capture is, say for example, you are not using Microsoft Dynamics, you are using some other processes, right? What you can do is you can also use this using AI model. What you can do is you can use a pre-trained model and pre-built model, and you can use it to a flow, right? What you can do is you can attach it through an app or a flow, but if use it through a flow and take your all the invoices, create a flow, take the invoices which are coming, read it, and then say for instead of dynamics you're using some other app, insert all these fields within those apps. So you don't invoice capture as a function, it's independent of dynamics 365. We are not talking about in the context of dynamics 365, but invoice capture as an app, it's independent of dynamics 365. So it's not dependent on dynamics only. You can also use it in other ERPs if you want to. So if you go back now to dynamics, and if you go into system setups, what you can say is I cannot configure this, but if I click close this and I use my document processing, any of the document processing, yep, if I use this, right, I can also change and configure everything which is there within this. So I'll click on this, I'll map all the fields and everything, and it should be good. Okay, I'll say it closed. And if I say for example, if I now try, what I'll try is I'll try and upload some of the invoices. I should have few invoices which are just waiting for me to get uploaded, but it doesn't have a purchase order. I should have some of this invoice. It should be one of this. Yep. So if I upload this invoice now, right, a duplicate file is found. Okay, no worries. Is this one? Let's see. Yep. It is processing. Give it some time. It should be within captured invoices. As you can see, it is this one. Now you see, if I click on start review, I don't have that option to change the key value mapping because I was using a custom model. So this is the biggest advantage of going with the custom model. Unless and until it is absolute necessary, I'll say stick to the model which Microsoft has provided, because 99% of the businesses case scenarios get covered with the standard model. Only for that 1% of model, and within even that 1% of model, you can use your extended fields, and you can just extend the standard model. Say for example, the chassis number, you can extend it, add it as I have shown within Power Automate, then write a Visual Studio Code, and you should be able to done. Only say for example, for the invoices which even you are unable to read, for say for this total over here is something else, and then below the total is this was a total on the front page for only one of the items, and then on the second page you have a total for the second item, and on the third page you have a total, the actual total which you need to read for both the items, and on the fourth page you have a total for this invoice and the last invoice. something like that. Only in such case scenarios you need to go for a custom model, because even unless and until a person knows what is actually happening within those invoice, no, say for example, if a person from other companies come, even he is unable to read what is the actual total. Only in such cases go for the custom one. Okay, so team, if you have any questions, I believe you should ask now. Is it possible to change the date format? Yes. You can. It is definitely possible that you are able to change the format of the dates. But for that you would need to go for the custom model. Let me go and check. See, within custom model it is possible. And say for example, if it comes to your own dynamics, right? Within dynamics you can change it. Any other question? We can edit the values that the invoice capture is capturing, reading. Like it should be 3. Yes, you can. Definitely you can. I'll also demonstrate it. Let me share my screen. Say for example, the last invoice which I transferred, this is, let's say this one. Over here, by mistake, what vendor has done is, it has given me the wrong purchase order. I know for a fact that this is not the purchase order which I need to write. What I'll do is, I'll go back to classify the invoice. Since this is already in review, I should be able to directly access it. But was it not in review, then you need to start the click on start review, and then you need to edit any of the fields. Say for example, for the purchase order, yeah, these are the 2 purchase order from which I can take. So I'll take 150, and invoice number I can add any of the number which I want. I'll say haha, or I'll say 123, whatever I want. For the dates, I can change the dates and everything. I can even change the vendor name and the vendor address, doesn't matter. But if you need to change the vendor account, for that you can go to classify invoice and you can manually do it. So all the fields which invoice capture takes, you can manually change each and every of those fields. Any other question? In case the custom AI or the standard invoice capture, how do we map a line in the invoice that spans onto the next page? Say for example, if your standard in for the lines one, right? Usually, as I said, right, within lines you'll have multiple issues. So what you need to do is, you need to either manually remove those lines if you have done the pre-built model. But if you have a custom model, what you need to do is, you need to map the field that for this table you can only use this particular line. Say if am I sharing my screen? Oh, no. Let me share my screen. Yes. If I go into this model, right, I'll say edit this model.
On the screen is not visible, no?
Is it visible now, Rakesh?
Yes, visible now.
Sure. Yes. So I'll go back where I have done all the collection work, right? Next. Yep, it's over here. My bad. Cancel it. Next. Within the tagging one. So what I'll do is, this is only a single line table, right? all of this should be a single line one. I'll add something within this collection itself. But within collection, add only similar one just for this demonstration purposes. I am adding a different file because if a collection is not matching, then your custom model accuracy is going to be a lot lower. If a custom model accuracy is lower, then you need to manually do it, which again defeat the purpose of Invoice Capture. Okay. For this, what I need to edit this table. I need to remove some tags. What I'll do is I'll edit those lines, and say for example, if it is going to the next line, I'll remove those lines, and I'll definitely make sure that everything with the invoice capture reads. It's that next line is not included within this table. Okay, and then I'll start it again and I'll do it.
I think so. We don't have any more questions coming in. Let's call for a wrap. Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you, Hamza, for doing this. And folks, thank you all for joining us today. It was a great event, and we have our next event coming up. Please do check on and register on it. And yes, the event is again recorded, and you can watch it later too. Thank you so much, Rakesh, and
Thank
thank
you.
you, Hamza. Thank you for
Thank you,
doing
Parth.
it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Everyone.